Welcome to the Motivated Martial Arts Podcast. Your hosts, Jackson White and Gavin Cook, have been friends and Taekwondo training partners for over 40 years. This podcast will bring you a mixture of their life stories, martial arts, and business experiences to motivate you in life and throughout your martial arts journey. Adding in a mixture of inspiring interviews and some of the best traditional martial artists around today. So over to your hosts, the Motivated Martial Artists.
First of all, I'd like to welcome you both on the podcast. Hello, Lee, and hello, Ronnie.
Hello. Hello there.
Hi, guys. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah. It's all good.
All right, brilliant. Okay, so we just wanted to fire off, and obviously with your father being Ronnie, just tell us a little bit about your early life and how it was growing up together.
Like growing up with my dad?
Yeah.
It was in a way, from my point of view, it's difficult really, because my dad was always out. He was always travelling. He was always fighting early days. But on saying that, I was in the gym with him a lot. He used to take me on the bus and we'd go to Toddy's gym and we'd train, and I'd be around and part of it. Like yourself there, I've been involved training with the martial arts. As soon as I could walk and I was an early walker, 6.5 months, I was kicking and what have you. But in terms of realistic, I've been involved in training in martial arts now I'm 42 in May. So I've been involved for 40 years myself now. So yeah, like I say, I was travelling around with my dad on the bus and train in the gym. I did a bit of judo at early age with my dad's friend Pelly as well. And Mr. Beck was one of my dad's first senseis. I trained with him, with my dad. I was his shadow. But then obviously as I got a little bit older, my dad started travelling and fighting abroad. He was away a lot. He lived in Thailand on several occasions, training and learning the art out there as a teenager himself. And as his career progressed, it was a case of I'd try and make the most of the minutes that he was there when he was there, because he was out to train and compete and build his career, provide for his family. So it was difficult. It was difficult really, which is why in respect of myself, I've had a layout myself in respect of the arts because of family. And with my kids, because I learned a lot from my dad being, at an early age, and I kind of tried to find a balance where I could be there for my family and do what I was doing at the same time, which is why I had a bit of a layout as well.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, ultimately, I'm in a similar background as yourself, Lee. So as soon as I could walk, I was doing Taekwondo. And my dad, I don't know, you know him, Jackson White Senior. He used to drag me down the country, training on the FSK circuits, competing. Yeah. And like you say, when he worked late shifts always, night shifts, but whenever he had the chance, he was in the gym, just, training. And my youth, is all about being in the gym with my dad, doing martial arts, going and meeting his friends. That's why I know Dev Barrett so well, and lots of
exactly, that's it. That's it. Like you say there, at the end of the day, you meet people because you're around your dad. And the good thing about my dad really was, as I say, it was difficult because he wasn't there. But at the same time, he never forced me into anything. It was always a case of, the option was there. If I wanted to go, I could go. Yeah, obviously he took me to places as young. But as I started to progress and train within the martial arts myself, it was a case of, he never forced me into doing it. It was my choice, and if I wanted to do it, fine. And if I didn't want to do it, fine. And that's how I am with my kids as well. It's the same thing. They're not being forced. Well, not just my kids, my students. When parents come and they bring the children there, and they think, oh yeah, because you know what parents can be like, very forceful, and they want the kid to be the best, and blah blah blah. It's one of them with me. I just let them engage at their level, and if they don't want to do it, I tell the parents, don't force them. Let them come off their own back. So those morals and instill, which have come from my dad, which have come from his mum, and so on and so forth, I think it's important because it's helped me to guide as guidance with my own children, but also with my students prior to having kids myself.
Yeah, sure. So Lee, I'm really intrigued because actually, we're quite similar ages. So just talk us through some of the times that you actually went and saw your dad fight. How did you feel about that? Watching him getting into the ring, and competing?
I think because I trained within the industry and I was around the Thai masters and I travelled around to different gyms and what have you with him, for me, and I never, I mean, my mum, she could never watch me dad fight. She never watched me fight. My sister was involved as well at a young age when she's a few years younger than me, but she was involved and she fought as well. Decent enough level as a child, but for me, when my dad was fighting, I was always excited about it. I was never worried about him because I knew what he could do. I knew what he was capable of, and because of his calmness and his approach, which is how we are with as a family, really, it never really worried me. I'd just be excited to see him fight and compete and win. And you know, I never really thought about win, lose or draw. It was just a case of he was out there to compete, to entertain, and I was there to enjoy it.
Yeah. And what about for yourself, Ronnie? What sort of impact did you think it'd make on Lee as a youngster, going following you around the gyms, watching you compete? What did you think about that?
Well, the thing is, it's words which we all understand and learn have true meanings, right? And the word trust me is the key thing, yeah? Now, that's what I saw in martial arts, because it's called self-defense for a reason. And as we're small, right, we're growing up. My son was a small child, you was a small child. Adults tend to be around us. Bigger people, bigger boys tend to be around us. And generally, in our unfortunate society, bullying, as fortunate, it happens with everybody, okay? I learned self-defense. That's the only product which I saw the martial arts was saying, whether it's karate, kung fu, Thai boxing, taekwondo. The word self-defense was important. I could fight. Don't like fighting. Same thing with my son. He doesn't like fighting. He doesn't like hurting anyone. But there's times when we have to sort of like what we say, because people always saw me as a soft person. Nobody saw me doing what I was doing because I was polite. I had manners. I got on with people. Same as my son, right? But I was there to defend myself, and the only thing what would have helped me was called martial arts. I didn't know what karate was. I didn't know what kung fu was, but I understood what martial arts was. And the good thing was I could dance. And it sounds funny, but what does dancing mean? Look what Michael Jackson did with music. He hit the beat. You know what I mean? He hit the beat. This is it. That was his famous line. This is it. But what did Bruce Lee talk about? He talked about the it. And this, to me, is what I saw in the arts. It's like, can you hit the baseball? You know, you play cricket, you play baseball. You've got to hit that ball. And there's some people can whack that ball outside, you know what I mean, the actual field. And this is what I saw with the martial arts. Martial arts was seen as comedic back in the day when we was growing up. They took the mickey out of it. White pajamas. So martial arts was never seen really as being taken serious. Boxing, wrestling was taken more physical for the West, was seen as actual physical and strength. Martial arts, as we know, was taking the mickey out, like the great stars like Tommy Cooper and everyone else, just like that, if you understand what I mean. So what I tried to do really was to keep myself as who I am as Ronnie Green, the nice person, rather than turn myself into, unfortunately, a mad person who is angry and wants to attack people. You understand what I mean? Because mental health is big in today's society. And this is where, with my son, I wanted him to be able to know that he could defend himself, but keep him, he's got mad, he's got respect, he is who he is. But you know what? My son is very good technically at what he does. You understand me? And we've all got our children now. And like our parents, what we want as parents to make our children the best they can be, and even better than ourselves, if you understand me.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important part.
Whether it's your son or your student, you want them to be better than you.
That's the key thing. That's what I was just going to hit onto, right? I personally believe we, as parents, we as students, whatever, should be thanking all of the Eastern arts for giving us the only grade we would get from our country. And that's the truth. We wouldn't get a good grade. I mean, you talked about Deb Barrett, right? Deb Barrett was a world champion, is a world champion, fantastic personality, nice. What a role model the guy is. And we've had these role models all up and down our country. You know as many martial arts based people as myself. And I'm going, wow, this is what is needed in our streets, because as we know, look what's happening on our streets, the stabbings and the fighting. And I'm going, wow, you've got some of the best role models to help parents and their children, because they bring them to our school, don't they? If you understand me. It's that concept which I think we are actually missing. Without the Eastern Arts, we would not have no grades at all. My son would not have any grades. This, truthfully, wouldn't have happened. If you understand me, because I love me football and I love me cricket and I love all, all the stuff which we have, but I never saw a way open, the door open for us. It sounds funny because we learn it at school, right? We've got all these things which we learn at school, but for us as kids from the street, me from West Side and all the other stuff, there was nothing there for me. I was never wanted, was never accepted. And the rivalry, it sounds funny, the rivalry we had with Liverpudlians, Manchester, it was never seen that we could go anywhere. But I've been able to go with my son up and down the country, around to places where we wouldn't be able to go to. But because of martial arts, I've been to Coventry. It sounds funny you said to Coventry. Well, I've been to Coventry to meet Deb and all the other.
And you're more than welcome.
Well, you understand me? But this is the key thing. This is our generation of kids who have been given black belts. And I would say, I'm sure just like my mum and my family were so happy that I was doing the martial arts, I would say your family was just the same, and many others family who supported us in this trade, because we just didn't do it on our own, did we, really?
Well, it kept us out of trouble as well. It kept us off the streets.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things, Ronnie. The martial arts, it's given a lot of direction to a lot of people. And I think now,
definitely,
with some of the work that yourself, the likes of Dev Barrett, Kenny Walton, Bob Sykes have been doing over the years, I think now it's starting to get that recognition, with the British Sports Council. We spoke to Dev Barrett on a previous podcast regarding getting kickboxing stroke K1 into the Olympics. So these sports are now starting to get that recognition. And I think from that, what you'll see is, the people that like yourself, the likes of Alfie Lewis, Bob Sykes, some of the real pioneers of British martial arts, regardless of the style or the organisation, will start to get that recognition, and some more of that kudos that I think you guys really deserve.
But I throw that I'm 60 now. As grown men, to say that we can help a generation which needs positive role models. Dev Barrett is a positive role model, right? There's a lot of us in the martial arts role model.
Sorry, Ryan, myself and Jackson are both full-time instructors. Yeah. For us, it's part of our job to influence these kids and put them on the right path and make sure that they're going down the right route. They're keeping away from violence, and they're keeping away from crime, and they're going down the road. And I think as an instructor, that's part of our roles. That's part of our job.
But don't forget, as a parent, also it's part of our job. Now, parents and instructors work together. The parents bring
the yin and yang,
the kids into your gym.
Yin and yang, yeah, totally.
Yeah, they bring the kids into your gym, which is actually like their home, because politeness and manners does not go without going into that gym. Get it? It has to go into that gym. Politeness, and then when you're at home, same thing.
Well, it has to leave the gym as well.
Yeah.
You don't leave it at home. You don't leave it in the gym. You take it with you.
And it goes to the streets as well. We're doing, I keep saying, we've got a sporting side, which is called, like my son, he fought. He was a sportsman. You understand me? And the way he conducted himself throughout the day and everything like that. My son is a gentle person. He's a kind person. But he also has sporting abilities, right? Now, the key thing is, that's what martial arts, that's what we do. It's like this conversation. We know our cues, politeness. So it helps us to actually develop and make our mums and dads proud of us for doing something positive, which was not kicking people's heads in, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Of course.
So this is where I'm saying we owe it to the Oriental art, as well as our mums and dads, to say thank you for showing us how to be strong when we're kind, get it? When we're caring, when we're considerate, right? Because that's what the martial arts is. I can only say I've met nice people in the way that my mum, it sounds funny, because rest their soul, but the only way my mum would say, yeah, these people are nice, you can actually say, it sounds funny, you can actually play with them, if you understand me.
Yeah.
We've got such a positive concept going. Doesn't matter what style or what system you are doing. Every martial arts I went, I did Shotokan, I did Shukakai, I did Wadaru, I did all these different systems. I did Judo, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I'm saying, wow.
Just over to, you mentioned you did all these different systems. What other styles have you studied, Lee?
Me, wow. I was around a lot. I've trained in Taekwondo, I trained in Shotokan Karate, I trained in Judo, I did Wing Chun, I've done a little bit of Aikido, obviously the kickboxing, the Thai boxing, Muay Baran, Krabi Krabong. I've been around the arts. I mean, at the end of the day, even Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I've trained and I've competed in a few of them myself. I've boxed. And the thing with us and the way that we train and the way we do things, we always about enhancing people's athletic ability. And the good thing, like with my dad, he transcended from one art to another. I'm exactly the same, and we're able to compete in the way that we teach and the approach. We've developed our own style of martial art, which is called I Can Do. Basically, it is what it says on the tin. I can do this. This is what we do. And with regards to a system that I've created through this active system that I approach, which is a further development of my dad's style. A lot of people didn't know, but back in the day, before Billy Blanks, he was teaching the Thai box, which was basically before Billy Blanks brought out Taibo. It was a copied, watered down version, really, of what Billy Blanks did. And that was through my dad being openly open and talking to people when he had been to America and what have you. And ideas get shared and stolen. Now, the same principle, with regards to the styles of martial arts, with the way we teach and approach things, it doesn't matter what style of art. Style is just a word. At the end of the day, we're able to transcend what we do as form of movement, which can, with regards to the styles of martial arts, there's a system, there's a grading system. We can teach any form of physical exercise, sport, activity, movement with our style. I've travelled a lot. I've travelled around the world. I've fought around the world, like my dad. Other than Australia. Right, yes, Australia's been great. Yeah, that's going to be my Thai fighting name. I'm changing it now to Bruce Lee. Yeah. But don't getting on a bit now. But speaking of Bruce as well, I'm privileged to have my daughter was born on Bruce Lee's birthday. She came 16 days late, and by the time my ex-wife had gone through a horrific 48-hour labour, she was born on Bruce Lee's birthday. So it's like special for me.
There you go. Did she come out going wah?
That was the one. She did because we struggled. She came out sideways, so I think if it wasn't her, it was definitely my ex-wife that was saying "Wow."
Yeah, someone was definitely screaming in the hospital. We're not quite sure who it was.
It might have been the consultant.
You're pulling you back to the fighting, your titles, then Lee. What is it 4 titles that you currently hold? 4 world titles?
Yeah, I've held a few more because I won an AMF Commonwealth in Australia. I won the WPMF British title. I've won the AKA world titles at 2 different weights. I've won the IKF world title. What else? Oh, God, off the top of my head now. I won junior titles.
Sorry, Lee, what weight did you fight at?
4 welterweight and super welterweight, super lightweight. So super lightweight, welterweight, and super welterweight.
So out of all of the titles that you hold, what would you say was your favourite?
Or your most accomplished?
I'd had a bit of a breakout of there, and I went to Australia in 2009, and I went out there on my own, and I ended up fighting for the Commonwealth title, the AMF Commonwealth title against Jason Lee, and he was he'd hold the WBC, I think it was welterweight title himself. He'd won a few titles actually, and he was. He'd fought in a few of the tournaments. I can't remember the name of the tournament. Liam Harrison was in the same tournament as him at the time. He'd fought quite a few and good caliber of fighter, and I went out there after a bit of a layout. I was asked off the cuff, similar to what's just happened really with regards to this last fight. I mean, obviously I had a bigger layout this time, 9 years, But when I went over there, I'd had a few years out, and I got asked if I'd go over there, and I said, yeah. So I went into his backyard, and I convincingly beat him and took the title away. So that was probably a good one, because I literally flew out all the way to Australia on my own. Nobody there. I went and stayed with my friend. He and a couple of his lads at his gym did my corner, but I'd never trained with him before. I'd never trained with them before. So that was probably a good one, really, for me, for the fact that I had a bit of a layout and what have you. And I ended up going into his backyard and taking the title away. And also, I met his mum prior to the fight and after the fight, and I still stay in contact with them, because his mum said to me, she said, I can't believe I'm doing this, but you've beat my boy up, and you're the loveliest guy I've ever met. You're welcome in my family anytime. You can come and stay. And funny enough, I'm going back to Australia in February, and I've spoke to Jason. I speak to him quite regularly, keep in contact and what have you. And he's asked me if I go and do a seminar at his gym, which was quite ironic, because I went over there, took his title, and we had a bit of a scrap, and then he's basically asking me to go over and do some teaching with him. And he actually messaged me and asked me if I'd help him out with kids' classes and what have you, which is nice, because obviously it shows that level of respect there, which is missing in today's action and society within the martial arts sporting arena.
Just stop there. Which part of Australia is his club based?
Perth.
Okay, we've just actually had a podcast this morning with a chap called Tony Curtis, who runs lots of Taekwondo gyms over in Australia. Yeah, they've got.
All right, I know Tony. Yeah, I know who Tony is. No way, small world.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we had him on the podcast this morning. So interesting.
Yeah, well, I think I was staying in Joondalup in Perth. That's where Darren Everett. He had his gym there. He's my brother from another. Darren. He's a good guy. And he used to live in Warrington over here. He trained with Master Skern and Dave Jackson, and he moved out to Australia a while back now, I'd say a good 15 years ago plus. And I regularly stay in contact with Darren, and he's the one that sort of speaks to the promotions through PON over there. I have good links with the guys. A guy called Neil Darcy. He's a good guy as well. And I do speak to them. I'm a bit of a night owl, me. So to be fair, I kind of live my life on Thai and Australia time. I'm up at 2 in the morning, and my day starts from between 2 and 4 every morning. And I'm talking to Thailand, and I'm talking to Australia regularly. I've got a friend called Martin Royal. He lives in the Philippines, and I'm planning on going over there at some point as well. So I've never been one for much sleep. At maximum 4 hours a night. I usually live off 2 to 3 at most. So I'm up and my day starts, and then my training begins. But I do a lot of marketing and what have you early hours in the morning, speaking to the guys over there. So that's just me. That's how I work.
Good time to train early morning for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm often even for this last fight, I was out running at 2 o'clock in the morning. I love it. I love it.
Was it Mike Tyson, wasn't it? Mike Tyson that said, he used to hate getting up in those mornings, but when he was out running, he knew that he had an advantage, because he knew his opponent would probably still be in bed. So it gave him that psychological advantage over his opponent just by getting up a little bit earlier and getting out on the street early.
Yeah, definitely. Can I throw that at you as well, right? You're talking about a psychological advantage, right? Yeah. When I started to train and knowing that I was going to actually fight with the the best fighters in the world, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking, I'm saying, right, what was their strengths and what was their weakness? And now I'm looking at them going, well, their strength was that they were already there, they already established, they were the champions. What was their weakness? I said to myself, they'd underestimate me. Okay? They'd actually underestimate an opponent like myself, because I'd never fought. I've never actually, but I knew what I did judo, I did karate, I knew what self-defense was all about. So, of course, in my way, I would have always said that being the underdog, which I've always been, they would never really taken me serious. You understand what I mean? That was the edge. I made sure that when I was in the bag or whatever, I was hitting it like, and someone who was an archery. You understand what I mean? If you was an archer, you're hitting the bullseye. You're breaking it down. And I knew that if they sort of like 1 minute thinking that, this will be an easy fight, and realize that I was a nightmare, which I am, okay? I knew sooner or later, psychologically, I would have broken down. You know what I mean? And this is what the strategy of all the arts is all about. A concept which is not just the physical. It's also about the mental and positioning.
And the spiritual as well.
You know what I mean? And this is what I feel sometimes. If MMA was around when I was beginning to start, I would have done it, right? Because I came from a judo background, came from a grappling background. What I was doing when I was started to fight, I had a little bit difficulty not throwing people, right? In the full contact match and sweeping them. They were telling me, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't. So I had to relearn and reassemble. But I started to realize that people didn't know how to actually. If you don't know how to stand properly, you're going to fall on the floor, aren't you? If you understand me. And this is the key. So when the MMA now started to come up, I started to understand straight away. I wish I was in the time now, if you understand me. Now would be the ideal time because they wouldn't allow me to do what I was able to do, right? Because you got to follow the rules. You can't do this, and you can't do that, and you can't do this.
Yeah.
But as I spoke to all the martial arts instructors, I told them that MMA is going to be big. But they told me that it was in my dreams. No, it wasn't in my dreams. What it was reality, because sooner or later, it's a bit like playing that brick, if you understand me. So what's happening is, you do that, I do this. You do this, I do that. And that's what fighting is, isn't it? And then the ultimate thing was grappling. And you grapple. When even Mike Tyson had that little bit of a scuffle, it wasn't boxing in the studio. They were grappling. Muhammad Ali with Joe Frazier, they were grappling. You understand what I mean? So I'm saying, well, look, in the overall approach, we are too busy not looking at the true structure because we're saying my style is better than your style, if you understand me.
Yeah.
And it's not that really. It's about if you are adaptable in the way you need to be, then you will get through it. It's like the key to the door. If you've got the right key to the door, you'll get through it.
Well, you make the style work for you, don't you? Because we're all athletic. We all move differently. You know, we all have our own ability and we all have our own limitations. So it's a case of making what works for you work. At the end of the day, fighting's fighting, and if you're going to be there to defend yourself, it doesn't matter whether you throw a punch in a certain way, whether it's a Kempo karate way or a Thai way or a boxing way. A punch is a punch when it comes to defending yourself. So that's key. And I mean, going back to what my dad was saying about he was always the underdog, it's the same thing for me. It's always been the same for me as a junior through to being a senior. I was always fighting people and putting myself, you know, from being young against the best.
Well, the thing is, it sounds funny. People didn't want. He was a novice, my son, right? My son was a novice, but no one wanted to fight him because he was my son. If you understand what I mean? So, just like the same thing, no one wanted to fight me in the UK. So I had to choose to fight those who were already established. That's what my son really had done. It did the same thing, really. Those who were already established, who were already in the sport,
already champions.
And champions.
I was fighting champions from an early age.
We both were fighting the champions. If you understand me, we both did it on the same.
You know, and even this fight, that I've just come back from now, Kem Dennis, or otherwise known as Jimmy, he's a renowned champion. He's just fought Sanchai a few weeks ago. He's beat Liam Harrison from this country. He's fought and beat a lot of good champions from around the world. I've been out for 9 years. I got asked by Andy Devent 6 weeks ago, would I take a fight?
And he said yes.
And I said yes, and he gave me a choice of 3 fighters, a 5th ranked fighter, a 3rd ranked fighter, or Kem, who was WCFC European champion, who's got the caliber and he's an active fighter. And I said, listen, mate, I'm not messing around. I don't take second best. I don't take the easy option. I will put myself to the test. And I did.
My son works 24 hours, more or less, yes? And as I say, the heart was definitely there. The heart is there. It's going to always be there. The energy wasn't. We're going to come down for a cup for one of your cuppers anyway, okay? Cup of chai, yeah? That's why I'm putting it in, right? And then we can have a podcast there with over the cup of coffee, a cup of tea, and make sure you got the biscuits as well. I'm sure you gave Debbie biscuits, didn't you?
No, we did Debs over the phone as well.
Oh, you're just making an
just send him a packet in the post.
I'm not giving my Jaffa cakes away to anybody. Okay then, Jen. So listen, Lee and Ronnie, it's been great, speaking to you today.
Without a doubt.
I watched your fight on pay-per-view on Saturday, Lee. Good effort, and I know obviously you didn't get the result, but it was a great fight.
It was good. I was a bit gutted. I mean, I had a lot of personal issues going on outside the ring. I'm not making any excuse. Kem's a good fighter. He's a strong fighter, and we bonded. We bonded before the fight as we were both cutting. He had to cut a little bit of weight. I did. I was perfect on weight the whole training camp up until the last week. And long story short, I spent a lot of time in the pool swimming and the jacuzzi. And I ended up holding a lot of water, which I had to get rid of, and building a bit too much muscle mass. So it messed me up which again, I won't make that mistake for next time. But at the same time, with, like I say, I ended up there was a bit of a miscommunication with regards to weight and this, that, and the other after me not making the weight initially, and cutting 3 kilos the day before. I was in the sauna in the morning of the fight, which I didn't really need to do because there was a bit of a misunderstanding. But it is what it is. It is, yeah. I'm not making any excuses or taking anything away. At the end of the day, Kem's a good lad, and the promoter straight away jumped on me. Brilliant fight. You've got the rematch if you want it, and Kem agreed to it as well. So we'll just build to that now. I'll get away from the stresses of life and the dramas of personal issues with regards to family life and stuff. But I just need to go away and just get my head into the game and be like him. He's an active fighter and he's constantly training. He doesn't have any kids. He's got no responsibilities. I've got a family. I've got 2 kids. I've got a business. I've got businesses. And at the end of the day, I've got to be selfish if I want to compete at the level that they're competing at, because that's one thing that I've not had through my career. I've always had businesses and family life, that because I learned from my dad and didn't want to be away from that. But as a fighter at the top level, I know myself. I've got to just draw away, get myself in a camp, 2-3 months, pull away from life if I can do that, and then crack on. Plus, age is against me. I'm nearly 42, and it's like, I've set myself a bar whereby I want to get as many decent fights in with the top caliber fighters now in the next 2 years max, maybe 3 at a push. But as soon as I can and get it in, get it done, and I can just tick that box off. I want to go to Japan and fight over there. I want to go to Brazil, and I've done America, I've done Australia. There's a few more places in Europe that I want to compete, but Tokyo's one for me. I definitely want to go to Japan. That's definitely on the card. So watch this space.
Brilliant. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to our free tickets to Japan.
Yeah, man, you can be my bag handlers, no problem.
If you see the size of Gavin's arms, you wouldn't trust any bags in his arms, Lee. It'd be a bum bag.
No.
All right, then. Thanks very much for coming on the show, you guys. It was great to catch up with you.
No problem. Look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Just before you go, just a quick one. I'll talk to you about this a bit more at a later date. But basically, we've got a massive show that we're going to be putting on ourselves in January. It's in conjunction with the Knives Down Gloves On campaign. Because my cousin's best friend's little boy, Tyrell, he passed away through knife crime. So we're putting a show on in memory of him. And there's some big names involved in that. So I'll keep you posted and fill you in on that at a later date. So that's going to be a big one. So, yeah, it should have been in December, but Anthony Joshua's fighting on the 7th of December. So we've had to push it back because there's a few things in the pipeline where he's concerned, and a few other names like Ricky Hatton and Anthony Collo and what have you. So basically, I will be in touch with you guys about that and keep you posted for a date in January. That's going to be at Victoria Warehouse in Manchester. So, yeah, I'll keep you posted on that.
Sounds fantastic, as long as you're not going to ask us to fight.
well, there is that element. There's always an exhibition. Charity exhibition thing. Yeah.
Do you know what, Ronnie? I'm
all for charity.
I could probably dust off the old gloves and kickers, actually.
Yeah, get the cobwebs off. Get the cobwebs off and the mothballs out.
Right.
Take care, guys. Speak to you soon.
Bye. I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode of the Motivated Martial Artist podcast. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page and our Facebook group, the Motivated Martial Artist podcast.
And don't forget also the Motivated Martial Artist Instagram page.
So head along for some extra content, interviews, and much more.
So until next week, it's bye from Jackson
and Gavin,
the Motivated Martial Artists.